The Styrian Mountains are a haven for wildlife. But during final practice for the 2001 Austrian Grand Prix, the animals got a little too close for comfort, as a deer emerged from the forest and skipped across the track, and the Williams team immediately alerted Juan Pablo Montoya to the danger over the pit-to-car radio.
We've seen a deer on the circuit. We believe it's somewhere on the circuit, so just come in cautiously, please. Oh, deer. Yeah, deer. Like a horse with horns. I know. Oh, dear.
Unaware of Montoya's excellent puns, the track invader ran off through a gravel trap and escaped back into the woods. And Montoya would make the headlines again on race day, stealing the lead from reigning world champion Michael Schumacher at the start and holding off the charge of the formidable Ferrari until lap 15. Then, as the field blasted towards turn 2, Schumacher attempted to pass, but Montoya locked up and slid across the racing line into Schumacher's path.
Through goes Barrichello, off goes Montoya, off goes Michael Schumacher. He's gone onto the gravel. That was silly, actually. He should have let Michael go.
Montoya would later retire with hydraulic failure, while Schumacher recovered to P3 before being gifted second place by Barrichello on the line, as David Coulthard won for McLaren.
I was a little bit upset, obviously, because there was no way he could make that corner, and all he was trying to do is to take me with him out of the circuit. And I mean, he was lost anyway, and to do something to me, then I thought it wasn't really what he should have done, because I had to go into the grass. I couldn't turn in. I nearly hit him, so it wasn't ideal.
Williams were experiencing a renaissance in 2014, and qualifying for the Austrian Grand Prix was arguably their highest point in recent memory. Mercedes had taken pole position at each of the previous 7 Grand Prix, at the dawn of the new turbo hybrid era, and their dominance looked set to continue, until a mistake from Hamilton saw him spin off, whilst his teammate Nico Rosberg was held back due to the resulting yellow flag. With the Red Bull ring playing to the strengths of the Williams chassis, Felipe Massa took full advantage to claim his first F1 pole position since 2008. Valtteri Bottas was less than 1/10 of a second behind in P2, and Williams had locked out the front row for the first time since 1993. The 1987 Austrian Grand Prix is best remembered for having 3 starts, rather than the race itself. 26 competitors lined up shortly after 2:30 p.m, and the lights went green for the first time.
And away they surge. Good start for Piquet, good start for Mansell.
But the Zach speed of Martin Brundle pivoted left and bounced off the barriers. The drivers behind took avoiding action, but with cars littering the pit straight, the race was red flagged. Thankfully, no one was injured, and those who had spare cars ran back to the pits to prepare for the restart. This time, Nigel Mansell in P2 suffered clutch problems and was slow away. The drivers behind missed him by mere millimetres before Mansell managed to get going. But it was too late for the midfield, Riccardo Patrese Brabham snapping to the right and flying through the air, as several cars collided behind. In the end, 10 drivers were involved in the pile-up, and the race was aborted once more. Remarkably, 24 of the original 26 starters lined up for the third getaway, albeit many of them starting from the pit lane. Ironically, the race was eventually won by Mansell after a stunning overtake on his teammate Nelson Piquet, unsighted and over the hill.
Nigel Mansell is famed for his courage and determination, and you saw both of them there. And here he is. Nigel Mansell has won his 4th Grand Prix of 1987.
And his crazy day wasn't over, as he banged his head on a steel girder after the race, leading to this famous exchange with legendary F1 commentator Murray Walker.
You've got an enormous bump on your head. Can you let them see it?
I don't know where they are.
Right up there. Oh, I'm sorry.
conditions at the Österreich-Ring in 1975 were treacherous, and the start of the race was delayed by 45 minutes as a heavy thunderstorm rolled over the circuit. Home hero Niki Lauda led away from the line, ahead of his great friend and rival James Hunt. But down in a lowly 8th place, Italian Vittorio Brambilla had begun the drive of his life. He proved to be the master of the changeable conditions, moving his march up to 3rd place in the first 5 laps. Finding grip where no one else could, and being last of the late breakers, he was soon onto the back of the leading pair. Hunt and Brambilla sailed past Lauda on lap 15, and when Hunt stumbled over a back marker, Brambilla took his chance and stormed into the lead. As the rain came down more heavily, teams up and down the pit lane called for the race to be stopped. And crossing the line on lap 29, Brambilla took the checkered flag. But in lifting his hands in celebration, he lost control and went sliding into the barriers. He completed his cool-down lap with the front of his car hanging off as he waved to the drenched crowds. Quite the way to mark his one and only victory in Formula One. Niki Lauda had never before won his home Grand Prix, but he put that right in 1984, showing remarkable grit and determination. His McLaren teammate Alain Prost had led, but crashed out after hitting an oil slick at the Jochen Rindt curve.
And that is one of the McLarens, and that's Alain Prost.
Before Lauda took the lead from Nelson Piquet's Brabham.
Niki Lauda takes the lead in the Austrian, his own Grand Prix, and he's on his way.
While driving to what looked like a certain victory, his gearbox broke, and he lost all but 3rd and 5th gear.
And that Niki Lauda slowing down, he's got an arm went up there, Lauda is in trouble of some sort.
But Lauda used all his guile and skill to nurse the stricken McLaren to the end of the race, and managed to maintain a high enough speed to keep a comfortable margin to Piquet and make history in his home country, and crucially regain the lead of the World Championship.
Niki Lauda crosses the line, raises his hand, wins the Austrian Grand Prix.
The 2019 Austrian Grand Prix was a thriller as 2 young superstars, Ferrari's Charles Leclerc and Red Bull's Max Verstappen, lined up on the front row of the grid. As the lights went out, Verstappen bogged down.
Verstappen gets an awful start. He's already been bypassed by the 2 Mercedes, Norris and Raikkonen as well. Leclerc leads.
The young Dutchman had to regroup and charged back to the front.
Max Verstappen is up into the podium positions, and they absolutely love that. Verstappen going to go down the inside. Yes, he is under braking. Max Verstappen manages to clear Valtteri Bottas.
Finally catching Leclerc with 5 laps to go. Verstappen pounced at turn 3 and briefly took the lead, but Leclerc fought back as they raced wheel to wheel down to turn 4.
He's so close! Bravo, Charles Leclerc! That was great defending!
But the moment of the race came a lap later as Verstappen steamed up the inside once again.
Leclerc knows what's coming. DRS wide open, gaining on the Ferrari, switches early Verstappen, late braking,
and bumped Leclerc off the road. The partisan crowd erupted in joy, the Orange Army in raptures as their man took the lead of the race. Verstappen became the first non-Mercedes driver to win a Grand Prix in 2019, and in doing so, claimed the first win for a Honda-powered car in 11 years. The most controversial moment in Austrian Grand Prix history came in 2002, when, having led comfortably from pole position for the majority of the race, Ferrari's Rubens Barrichello was given the order to let teammate and number 1 driver Michael Schumacher pass him for the win. Having just signed a new Ferrari contract, the Brazilian's loyalty was put to the test. He'd already forfeited 2nd place to Schumacher at the same race the previous season.
Rubens, it's last lap. Let Michael pass for the championship. Let Michael pass for the championship.
You were 2nd until the last corner, and then you pulled over to let Michael through. Why was that?
The team has asked me to do that.
But was now being asked to give away a Grand Prix victory at just the 6th round of the championship. As the Ferrari pit wall ignited into furious communication, Barrichello rounded the final corner of the race, backed off towards the line, and allowed Schumacher to take the checkered flag, causing the grandstands to erupt in a chorus of boos. Schumacher was clearly embarrassed and swapped places with the Brazilian on the top step of the podium, earning himself a fine in the process. Team orders weren't illegal, but they definitely weren't popular.
Ross Rubens had won that race, hadn't he?
Oh yes, Rubens won the race today, but in the interest of Ferrari and the Drivers' Championship, we've made the decision.
I have to be honest to say now it was probably the wrong decision to win this race. Yes, I agree. But if I had the chance to turn it around, I would probably do. But I cannot now.
The closest finish in Austrian Grand Prix history came in 1982, where Renault's Alain Prost had looked set to win before retiring with 5 laps to go.
And that is Prost's car. The Renault is in flames. What incredible drama.
Leaving the Lotus of Elio De Angelis and the Williams of Keke Rosberg to battle it out for what would be either driver's maiden Grand Prix victory. An epic battle ensued, with neither man giving any quarter to the other.
Oh, Rosberg coming in fast into the corner. He's giving it everything. What an exciting finish to the Grand Prix. Well, let's see. Rosberg right with De Angelis now. One of these two is going to win the Austrian Grand Prix. Rosberg's coming at him. He's going to finish side by side, and De Angelis has just held it.
And over the line they were separated by just 0.05 seconds, less than half a car's length, following a fantastic duel. After a race-long strategic battle, Nico Rosberg was being hounded by Lewis Hamilton as they entered the final lap of the 2016 Austrian Grand Prix. And a small mistake into turn 1 allowed Hamilton to close the gap just enough to slot into his slipstream.
Hamilton got a fantastic drive out of turn 1.
So here he goes then. Is this hammer time?
Desperate not to lose his hard-fought lead, Rosberg aggressively defended and collided with his Mercedes teammate.
The line they've touched again!
And there was almost more contact as the Briton came back onto the track. Rosberg had damaged his front wing in his attempts to keep Hamilton at bay, and it was now stuck under his car. The German driver limping home as Hamilton cruised to victory. A Mercedes 1-2 was lost as Max Verstappen and Kimi Räikkönen breezed past the wounded Rosberg to take second and third positions, before insult was added to injury with a 10-second penalty and reprimand for not having stopped his damaged car out on track.
Hamilton takes the Austrian Grand Prix.
Okay, Lewis, well done, mate. It's not the race we were after, but yeah, good result.
That was on the outside. That wasn't me that crashed.
And despite boos from the crowd on the podium, Hamilton had no regrets.
I don't feel it's controversial, really. He blocked the inside, and the only place I could go was down the outside. So I was on the racing line, and I went very wide, left him plenty of room. And as I started to turn, I was at the edge of the track. He collided with me.
It was a bit of both. I mean, for one, I was struggling to slow the car. But anyways, I'm on the inside, you know, and it's my position, and I have the corner, and I have the right to dictate the way.